It is Thursday, February 4. Welcome to CGN News. 12 Guyanese who were detained by the Venezuelan Navy on January 21 make their way home after being released. Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Hugh Todd confirmed to CMC that the men were released on Tuesday night. He said that it shows goodwill and helps to rebuild some bridges between Guyana and Venezuela. The seamen returned on the same two fishing vessels which had been intercepted by the Venezuelan Navy ship in January. St Lucia has returned to a state of emergency on Wednesday. The measure includes a 10-hour nightly curfew and a reduction in the hours businesses are allowed to operate as the country grapples with another wave of COVID-19 cases. Prime Minister Alain Chastanet made the announcement in an address to the nation on Tuesday. He said the measure will be in effect for a week in the first instance. Haiti has unveiled proposals to overhaul the country's constitution that officials plan to present to voters for an upcoming referendum that looms amid growing unrest. The public meetings are scheduled to be held ahead of the April 25 constitutional referendum, which would be the first one held in over 30 years. One of the biggest changes is an omission, which has generated heated debates. Haiti's current constitution bars presidents from serving 2 consecutive terms, but the draft only states that a president cannot serve more than 2 terms. Human rights attorney Bill O'Neill told the Associated Press that his interpretation is that the omission would allow a president to serve 2 terms consecutively. The Privy Council in London on Wednesday began a 2-day hearing into the Bermuda government's appeal against same-sex marriage. Bermuda is the first country in the world to approve same-sex marriage and then take away the right, but a series of court decisions means that gay couples can currently get married on the island. The Bermuda government has hired Queen's Counsel Jonathan Crowe to make its case that gay couples should not be allowed to marry. Out Bermuda, a gay rights charity, and 4 other litigants have retained David Panic QC. Bermuda's Supreme Court ruled in May 2017 that gay couples could marry on the island, but the Progressive Labour Party government later passed an act outlawing same-sex weddings. Director of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, Dr. Carissa Etienne, says the effects of COVID-19 are disproportionately impacting women and called for more attention for gender disparities. At a virtual media briefing Tuesday, she told CMC that it was important that women and girls can access the health services they need, especially during this time of crisis. This includes gender violence hotlines and sexual and reproductive health services. While men were more likely to become ill with COVID-19 at the start of the pandemic, those trends are reversing, Etienne said. So far, more than 1 million health workers in the Americas have become ill with COVID-19, and 4,000 health workers, most of them women, have died. San Francisco has taken a dramatic step in its effort to get kids back in public schools, suing its own school districts to try to force classrooms to reopen amid the coronavirus pandemic. The lawsuit is the first of its kind in California and possibly the country, as school systems come under increasing pressure from parents and politicians to end online learning. With support from Mayor London Breed, City Attorney Dennis Herrera on Wednesday sued the San Francisco Board of Education and the San Francisco Unified School District. Teachers' unions in many large school districts say they won't go back to classrooms until they are vaccinated. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration says it has no plans to open direct contacts with Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, who has called for improved relations after Donald Trump's efforts to topple him. State Department spokesman Ned Price told reporters that there would be no contact anytime soon. Price said that Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris would continue Trump's policy of recognizing opposition leader Juan Guaido as the interim president. Guaido rooted his legitimacy in his election by the opposition-led National Assembly before December 2020 elections won by Maduro's forces in polls seen by the U.S. as rigged. The International Criminal Court has convicted a Ugandan child soldier turned Lord's Resistance Army commander of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The court on Thursday found Dominique Ongwen, 45, guilty of 61 charges, including murder, sexual enslavement, and abducting children carried out in the early 2000s. In a legal first, Ongwen, who was abducted by the LRA as a child, was also convicted for the crime of forced pregnancy and other atrocities committed against 7 women. His lawyers had asked for an acquittal, arguing he had suffered psychological damage as a result of being abducted as a child and was a victim and not a victim and perpetrator at the same time. The number of new podcast launches mushroomed last year compared to 2019, a download tracking firm said Wednesday. New York-based Chartable reported that 885,262 new podcasts were launched worldwide in 2020, almost triple the new offerings the year before. During initial lockdowns in March and April, Chartable said podcast downloads took a hit as routines and commutes were upended, AFP reports. However, all that listening returned quickly as people developed new routines for the lockdown/shelter-in-place era, the firm said in a blog posting. And finally, a notice from China's education ministry has caused a stir after it suggested young Chinese men had become, quote, too feminine. China's government has signaled concern that the country's most popular male role models are no longer strong athletic figures like, quote, army heroes. So last week, the Education Ministry issued a notice with a title that left no doubt about its ultimate goal. The proposal to prevent the feminization of male adolescents called on schools to fully reform their offerings on physical education and strengthen their recruitment of teachers. The text advised recruiting retired athletes and people from sporting backgrounds and vigorously developing particular sports like football with a view to cultivating students' masculinity. That's it for CGN News. I'm Scott Wilson. Thanks for watching.